Have you ever seen someone living an amazing life and thought to yourself, how'd they get so lucky? If you are not currently living a life that's on your terms, a life by your design, then this podcast series is for you. This is the More Confidence with Luna Guy podcast. And in this special season, I'm going to be interviewing people who are living a life by design, living a life on their terms. And I'm going to find out once and for all if it is just luck or there's something more going on. Let's dive in. Liz, I have never met someone who has intentionally gone and done 35,000 burpees in a group of six, admittedly, but 6,000 burpees for a world record. Are you crazy?
Possibly a little bit. I think some people think I'm crazy or that we were all crazy for doing it. But honestly, I think when you've got a really good reason for doing something, there's that really big why behind it. It makes it that little less crazy. And yeah, the reason that we did it definitely just made it maybe not easy. It definitely wasn't easy, but it kind of made it more, I know why we're doing this. It's for a great reason. It's for a great cause. So,
What
yeah.
was the cause? What's the reason?
So it's to raise
Why would you
money.
do that?
That's a really great question. So it's to raise money for vets suffering with PTSD, which is something that I kind of feel very strongly about. There's a lot of vets out there that commit suicide. There's about 22 vets a day. It's a number from the United States. But that's it's a massive number regardless of where it is. So something that kind of feel very strongly about. Yeah.
You and I have had conversations about this before, and I remember you saying to me that in a situation like that, when you're 24 hours, so I take it that you don't sleep in that time. Is that right?
We had every sort of 20 minutes, we were working in twos. Every 20 minutes, we'd have a 10-minute break. So you could kind of go and just do whatever you needed to do. I found that in that 10-minute break, I was having to go into the bathroom and look myself in the eye and kind of say, like, you've got this, like, you can do this, because it was really fucking hard. And my body was starting to break down, and I was wanting to show up for the team. So kind of just like putting on face and doing it, even though it was, it was a big struggle. So,
Wow.
yeah.
When we were talking off air, you were saying that in a situation like that, it can either be heaven or hell.
Yes. Yeah.
What what was it for you?
It was absolute hell. Uh, and this is where I don't sort of people kind of get surprised when I tell them this, because I think they
Yeah.
think I went in there going, oh, this is going to be easy, and that I had an absolute ball. And I learned a big lesson that day, and that was that whatever we're doing, whatever you're doing in life, you can always choose. Is it heaven? Is it hell? Am I having a good time right now? And I chose hell in those 24 hours, like especially kind of
Did
around
you
the
know at the
halfway
time,
point.
Liz? Did you know that you were choosing hell at the time, or was that
Not
post
really. I
traumatic
think my
stress?
mind was just kind of getting wrapped up in, my feet were swollen. I decided to do it barefoot, which the others had shoes on. My knuckles, my hands were really sore. And in the moment, like, you kind of just you get stuck in your mind, right? And it wasn't until after the fact that I was like, holy shit, like, that was my doing. I made it like that. So I've kind of taken that with me in other things that I've done, and it's sort of a little reminder in life, that, oh, hang on, I get to choose. I get to choose how I feel about this. So
People would find that really hard to believe, Liz. People would find that really hard when they're sitting there going, but the circumstances suck. Most people don't even like to do one burpee, let alone upwards of 5 or 6,000 burpees with no sleep, going hard at a time, 20 minutes of burpees at a time. 1 minute of burpees would be hard enough. I think that people would find it really difficult to believe that you got to decide whether or not, like, how could that possibly be heaven?
how could it be heaven? Because it's completely up to you. We were there, we were pushing our bodies, pushing our minds, and doing something for a great cause. And I think what do you desire in life? And you do get to choose that. Yes, this is going to be awesome, or it's going to suck. So yeah.
How do you differentiate then between, when the circumstances seemingly suck, right? Like, the average person is that would be a pretty sucky situation, right? And obviously you put yourself into it, so there's that. But when people have situations maybe where they are experiencing PTSD, or they're having experiences where, like we we had a global, situation for several years, whatever we want to call that. How do you think that people would, like, how do we differentiate between the external circumstances suck
Mhm.
and what I'm hearing is that your internal world made a choice to view that as sucking? How do you do that?
Yeah, so I think it's just coming down to controlling what you can control. And you can't control what's happening in the outside world. We've just got to look
Mm,
back over the last couple of years, and that's very, very apparent. But we
very
can
evident.
control, what's going on in our inner domain. The way that we think, the way that we feel, how we, show up in the world. We can control
Mm,
that. So I think that's um, something that I think a lot of people don't actually have that realization that they actually have a lot of control over what's going on inside their mind, um, and they get to choose. And I'm not saying it's
absolutely.
easy either, and I'm not scared. PTSD is it's a big thing, and I'm not saying that they just have to think positively or anything like that. But yeah, yeah,
We get to choose where our focus is, and that's exactly why I think that I've had you on this podcast here today, Liz. Because this podcast, How'd You Get So Lucky? This is the conversation about people who are living a life on their terms. People who have seemed to have, if I would broken free of the matrix, so to speak. They're not following the path that is set out for us, and you have carved your own. You're a personal trainer, you're a precision nutrition certified coach, you're a group fitness instructor, remedial massage therapist, you're a 700-hour yoga teacher training and yin yoga teacher. You are doing so many incredible things in your body, but also in your mind, and you are living a life that is on your terms. Is that probably fair to say?
yeah. I think so. I think it's definitely fair to say. Yeah.
Yeah. What does that look like? What does it look like that you like? How have you got here to be living a life? And a caveat for everybody listening here at home: my version of living a life on your terms doesn't mean that it's without problems.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean that it's fancy free. Doesn't mean that you necessarily have all the money in the world and never a problem. It's just simply that you are deliberately choosing it. How
Yes.
did you get here?
I think I was doing like a lot of jobs that I just absolutely hated. I was living this life where I was living for the weekend and
Mm,
living to party, and I was not happy at all. I was very insecure and just basically just hated my life, and got to the point where I was just I'm sick of this. Like I'm sick of struggling for working for money or making someone else rich and just sort of working for the weekend to then repeat it all over again.
yeah.
So probably when I was about, I think about 23, just making that choice of um, I want to live life on my terms. I want to choose what I do with my time.
Mm,
Um, that's probably the biggest thing for me is having that freedom to choose what I do with my own time, and doing meaningful work as well, because I can't do the clock in and clock off and then head home and do it all again until Friday comes.
yeah.
Um, yeah, so that's probably the biggest thing for me is having that meaning behind it.
Yeah.
Um, so how did
Because
it?
you're a no BS kind of personal trainer, and
Yeah,
that's what I love about you. Because a personal trainer, to me, from what I know of you, Liz, seems like an understatement. To me, you are a human performance. What would be the word? To me, you are a specialist in human performance, because it's
wow.
not just in the physical kind of side of things. What you really go in, you're like you demystify, you talk really honestly, and I love that about you, and that's why we get along so well. Because in my world, in the coaching world, it's not like, oh yeah, just think great, think positive, just you and I get along really well for that reason, because you approach something that has been so, what I would say, influenced, like
Mm,
the influencer idea of the brand new workout that's going to revolutionize. You're like, get in, do the reps, be consistent, show up for years, you'll get the results.
yes, yeah.
And I love that about you. You were 23 when you decided that you no longer wanted to live a life that was prescribed to you and you were going to write your own prescription, that's pretty bloody young. What do you think was the catalyst, or what led you to be 23 and starting to make those decisions?
I was in a relationship at the time with a guy that I'd been together for about 5 years, and just kind of, again, like we were just going through the motions, and
Mm,
was just, there has to be more to life than this. He was happy to sit and just do nothing with himself. And I had that realization one day, like, I want more out of life than this. And so, yeah, made the choice to end it. And it's probably one of the best decisions I think I've ever made in my life. So, yeah.
it's interesting. I love that you say that. And when I'm having these conversations with people on this podcast, what I'm really noticing is the theme of we knew we needed to leave or end or stop or change. It had
Mhm.
been coming for a while. Is that fair to say? Like, did you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's probably,
how
a good,
long?
like, probably 12 to 18 months where I
Yeah.
was kind of going, but thinking like, oh, well, this is it. Like, this is the life I've chosen.
Yeah.
But then having that realization, like, I can't continue like this. Like, things have to change.
Mm.
Otherwise, it just, I don't know where I would be right now if I had stayed. I can't even
Yeah.
fathom,
I kind of
think,
see you with a brood of children, and
probably.
which is quite funny because Liz, you have decided by choice to not have children. Is that right?
Yes, yes. That was probably a
Yeah.
decision. Yeah, when I was younger, I remember thinking, oh, I'll grow up and get married and have children. But I think around the age of kind of 17, 18, I was like, oh, I don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Um, and I think it can make some people uncomfortable, I think, when you sort of very openly to say, well, I have chosen not to, or I don't want
Mm.
children. And it's just lucky that I met a partner, Andrew, who doesn't want children either. So it kind of just has all worked out perfectly. Or not perfectly, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's all worked out. Yeah.
Well, it worked out aligned, right? Like you
Yes.
you found someone who was aligned in that idea. To live it, that's, again, there's a theme here that there's a prescribed life. There is a written kind of idea that you go to school, perhaps you go to university after school, or you go get a job at some point. That becomes a career for your life. You find someone to fall in love with, you get married, you have kids, eventually you retire at 65. You live for the weekend, you live for your 4 weeks annual leave if you're lucky in Australia. For those living in the States, we have 4 weeks, but those living in
Yeah.
like Switzerland, I think they have six. So, but you live for these short periods of time to which you're allowed, the chains are let off and you're let out of your cage and you're allowed to go do what you want to do. What is it about that life that you didn't, that is disagreeable to you?
I think just the going to work to pay for things that, you think possibly make you happy, um, but don't actually kind of make you happy. And
Mm,
doing something that, for me, it just comes back as well to that, doing something that is fulfilling for me, sharing with the world what I do, sharing my passion with the world. I can't do that working at Target, and there's nothing wrong with working at Target if that's what people do.
right.
Um, but for myself, uh, it's not an option. Like for me, I look at that now and I go, that life it's not an option, and I will not go there, and I will not go back there to
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
I'm hearing there, and it's obviously the example there of Target, and it's got nothing to do with that by any stretch of imagination. I know that you know that too. It's actually settling for a life that is less than what is in your heart.
yes,
That's what I'm really hearing there.
yeah,
If you get so much love and passion and fulfillment in being amazing customer service experience is a passion, and
yeah,
people are bloody good at it.
yeah, absolutely,
And
yeah,
and I think that you can have passion working for someone else. I think that that's
yeah,
actually really possible. I think that there's a lot of people who aren't suited to work for themselves
yeah.
because it's pretty bloody hard. What have you found to work for yourself the way that you do? What are some of the pitfalls of that?
I think like the most challenging thing for me is actually being able to switch off from it. So I feel like I continually, like, if I'm not doing something for my business, then, I'm being lazy, and slowly learning that that is absolutely not the case. And, the way that I work is I do really well with, big bursts of work, and then stepping
Mm-hmm.
back from it and taking a break and actually allowing myself to switch off. So that's probably the most challenging thing. But then also just it takes a lot of discipline to actually, because it's your responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
I don't go to work and have someone pay me at the end of it, a weekly wage. Like, it's my responsibility to get up, to put
Mm-hmm.
things out there, to put great things out there, and
Mm-hmm.
then, hopefully that connects with people. So I think that's definitely one of the hardest parts as well. Just that all the responsibility is on you. It's the most challenging thing, but I also love that about it as well, because again, it comes down to, well, this is a choice that I've made, and if I want to live this life, then I have to be okay with that. So
Yeah, it comes with the territory, right? And I think that
yeah,
that's true, living life on your terms, irrelevant of if you're in business on your own. For those people who are thinking about kind of going into business, and they're going, oh, I wish I could have that. I want to be really candid around that, because it does take. I've got a very dear friend who's high level exec in marketing in companies, in multinational companies, and he says to me, I couldn't be self-employed. He goes, I wouldn't have the motivation, I don't have the
yeah,
discipline. I like people telling me to a certain extent what to do.
yeah.
And I think that maybe those of us in business or entrepreneurial kind of spirits, maybe we don't like people telling us what to do so much.
That's I think that's possibly my biggest problem. Not problem, but that's,
Maybe you have a problem with authority, Liz.
yeah. 100%. So my name is Liz, and I'm a control freak. That's basically
My name is
basically,
Luna, and I'm a control freak.
yeah.
Yes, here is the space. For those
Yeah,
of you listeners at home, say your name and admit the
yeah,
control freakness.
yeah. And I think that for a really long time, I actually thought that I had to fix that about myself.
Mhm,
Because I think in some certain situations, obviously, like with the past couple of years, you have to be able to just let go and be like, well, I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm okay with that. But to a certain extent, when it comes to, again, the way that I want to spend my time and
mhm.
live my life, like, I am a control freak, and I'm going to own that and use that to my advantage. So,
And coming back to the burpee situation, in that, it's really interesting because you spoke about that the part of the reason why that was hell for you was because you were trying to control circumstances outside of you rather than control the thing that's inside of you.
yeah,
How has
definitely.
that shifted for you in your life, do you think?
I think, especially like with the last couple of years, just the not necessarily like the ability just to let go and
Mm,
to go with the flow to a certain extent, and that then allows for other opportunities to come in as well. I think if you're
mm,
always constantly trying to control every single little thing, it creates tension within you. And I really learnt that throughout the burpees. Um, and so that is always a little reminder for me in life, like,
yeah.
maybe sometimes it is okay to let go and allow other people to offer help or do things with other people, because you
Mm,
don't know what's going to pop up from that, or what opportunities may arise or who you may meet, um, the experiences that you can have from that. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things. There's a few things there, but
yeah, I'm hearing that's about the balance, which it strikes me as it's almost my life. Part of my life's work is to how do I balance my ambition, my go for it, my go get
yes,
personality, my go achieve and hunt, while allowing myself to surrender and receive the outcomes, because
yeah,
ultimately we can't control the outcomes. We can
yep,
only control our actions. We can only control our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. But what the result of that is isn't actually up to us.
that's right. Yep.
How do you play in that uncertainty of you're an ambitious woman, Liz, you like to go get it, you're like to hunter. How does that land with you, that surrender piece of I actually can't control the outcome?
It's something that I'm probably still working on. I think it's like the ultimate,
Yeah.
masculine, feminine. Um, And because I am a very much a, go get them, I have to have control. I want to look at, what am I doing? What am I doing to achieve that, to get to that end goal? And this is something that I, try and instill in the people that I work with as well. If they're trying to get fitter or they're trying to lose weight, you can't always control what's going to happen at the end. But
Yeah.
coming back to what you were saying, just enjoying the journey along the way, and making sure that you're doing it in a way it's authentic to you, is probably one of the most important things for me to continue to come back to.
Yeah.
But just enjoying the journey along the way, and being willing to negotiate and say, well, okay, it doesn't look like I want it to look, but oh my God, look what's happened. So just being willing to.
Yeah, it's interesting because you and I work together in terms of from like a fitness perspective. Like you write my programs, you help me train, and if anybody's been following me for some time, they would probably notice that there's been some shifts, changes in my body over the last 18 months kind of vibe, and it's really interesting because as my body has changed shape, what has occurred is that I had an expectation in my head. I noticed this, an expectation of what my body was going to look like, lighter or leaner, the literal shape of it. And I had this realization recently, which I haven't shared with you. I had this realization where I was looking at photos of myself going, oh, I'm actually never going to have a tiny waist in proportion to my hips. That is the shape of my body.
Yeah.
And we can't change I can change the visceral things, the thing that's on the outside of the body. I can change the fat distribution or the muscle distribution, but I can't actually change the shape of my bones,
Yes, your structure.
my structure. Like, you can't actually change that. There is whether or not someone has because right now it's very popular to have a tiny waist, big breast with a big, or actually probably less breast and a big
And more
butt, right?
ass. Yeah.
So I think they actually call it something in the influence world, but it's like having a cinched waist and strong glutes. There are programs out there that are training people to have a cinched waist and a big ass. What is your when you look at, I know I can feel like your eyes rolling there. It's like,
Sorry.
yeah, please tell me, because I love your no BS approach to this. How do we as individuals who do want to create change, who are looking to maybe be fitter or healthier or, yes, lose body fat, right? How do we, well, actually, better question for you here, Liz, is what is your opinion on that kind of culture?
I think it can be quite dangerous, for people, because it's selling this, unrealistic body, or unrealistic kind of view of how a body should look.
Mm,
Um, and I know I laugh about it, and might roll my eyes about it, but I know that a lot of people kind of look at that and they think that that is, oh, that's what I need to do to be healthy, or that is strong. And
mm,
uh, you know it always ends in disappointment, unfortunately. And
mm,
everybody is different. Like, our bones and structure are, we all have the same bones and we all have the same muscles, but there's different shapes, there's different sizes. And selling a program to someone saying that this is how you're going to look at the end of it,
yeah.
it's false advertising. It's a big load of shit, because the training that I do, the training that you do, we're going to look different because we have different structures. And
Mm,
you're taller, I'm shorter.
mm.
So yeah, I
And
kind of,
distribution of body fat, of muscle, of the way that our bodies react to training
yeah,
is going to be different too, isn't it? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
so this idea that I'm going to put a certain body on my vision board, that by the end of,
Yeah,
I say in inverted commas there, like the end of a certain period of time, I'm going to have a Kim Kardashian body. That is wildly unrealistic for many people because they simply don't have that body shape. Is that right?
absolutely, yeah. And it's kind of also coming back into, I sort of always ask people if they're wanting to look a certain way, like, what about that is going to make you happy? Like, what makes you think that once you get there, that you're actually going to be happy. So
Mm,
I really, when I'm working with people, it's about finding, let's do what we know works.
mhm,
And then, the after effects of that is going to kind of represent how your body looks.
mm.
So kind of finding their own shape, because that is beautiful when people can find their own actual body shape without trying to look like someone else with these massive ass cheeks that a lot of the time there's like fake ass plants now. Like, I
Yeah, they
don't
do.
get
They
that.
do. Well, I mean, the implant, but also like there's shorts that you can buy that have
Yeah.
like a padded bra, right? You have padded pants now to give you more of an arch.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're right. I think that is dangerous because even for myself, who I would consider myself to have pretty strong level of self awareness, it almost surprised me when I was like, oh, I'm not particularly hourglass in the way that I thought that I would be. I had
Yeah.
this perception that if my body is smaller, even though it's been smaller over the years, um, when it's smaller that somehow my waist would get smaller in proportion to my hips, but that's never going to happen. How can it? If the fat comes off my hips, it's going to come off my waist in the
Same
same kind of
proportion.
way. So
Yeah.
I'm probably a pear more than I am an hourglass, even though the hourglass is what is deemed as the holy grail
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah. I do have to say, Luna, you're looking very, very strong. Like you do.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I
And that
appreciate that.
comes back to that being consistent, and doing the work. So
Yeah, you just said before what you said that when you're working with a client, you're like you figure out what like let's do what works. What works?
first of all, it's finding a way of movement that you enjoy. I think
Love
that
it.
is really important. And then within that, resistance training, some form of resistance training, lifting some form of weight, is so crucial, especially for women, especially as we're aging. And let's face it, like we aren't getting younger. So, doing some form of resistance training, incorporating some, cardio training into that, eating a balanced diet. It doesn't have to be, it's not, restricting yourself of food, it's
Mm,
enjoying food, and knowing that it comes with, um, what's the word I'm looking for? It comes with, so, family, and it comes with, occasions and, um,
celebrations.
yeah, and being able to find a really consistent way of implementing that into your life
Mm,
that works for you. And again, not everybody's different. The way that I train is not going to be the way that you train, or the way that I would write a program for someone else who maybe has less time to be in
yeah.
the gym.
Yeah.
So
But the core principles are the same for everybody as well, right? The
yeah,
way that it looks is going to be different because of our
yes,
different bodies and our different lifestyles and all that kind of stuff. But what I'm really hearing is two things. There are foundational, fundamental things that we actually
absolutely,
everybody knows.
yeah,
Everybody knows that in order to be a healthier self, we need to make sure that we're eating a wide variety of healthy foods. And everybody knows what a healthy food is for the
yeah.
most part, right? Like we really do. There's hidden stuff in things, but generally
As
fruits and
close to the
veggies
source as
as
possible. That's what I always
close
say.
as source as
As close
possible.
to
I
the
like
source
that.
as possible, and then we can kind of bring in other little things, bring in other things around that. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a great distinction. As close to the source possible. Moving our bodies in a way that is joyful for us with some resistance training and being the word that comes through for me the most there is consistency. You have to be
yes,
consistent. Is that right?
absolutely. And I think that's where a lot of people, fall off. They do something for maybe 2 weeks and they go, well, that's not working, so I'm going to go and
Or
I'll
even
move on
three
to the
months or
next
six
thing.
months.
Yeah,
Right?
yep, that's
Yeah.
right. Or they do these intense kind of 4 week challenges that just absolutely smash you. And yes, you're probably going to lose weight and build some muscle over that 4 weeks, but you can't maintain it. And
Yeah.
people, I think can really be disheartening for people because they think, I can't continue this. And it's
Yeah.
like, well, you shouldn't, and you don't have to. It's
Mm,
not the way that
mm.
we're actually, designed to be. So
Yeah, yeah, that
yeah,
consistency is so important over the length of your life. It's not even just cool 6 months, 12 months, it's forevermore, right? Like that's
yeah,
the kind of commitment that if you want to be your healthier self, physically and mentally, is what I'm hearing from you, Liz. Consistency across the board is more important than quantity. It's more important than almost
Intensity. Yep.
practically everything. Yeah, like if you show up regularly to the practice, be that your mental health, be that your physical health,
Yes.
long term, that is going to benefit your happiness.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
You've mentioned a few times around happiness. What do you think happiness is?
Oh God, that's a really
I
great question.
know, great question. Take a breath. Or what
uh,
is it for you? It's not, it doesn't even mean like, globally, but for you personally.
Happiness for me is it's contentment, I guess, and
Mm.
just um, oh wow, I think you might have put me on the spot, Luna, and
This is really great. So for everyone
yeah,
listening at home, the questions that I ask all my guests on this podcast series, I haven't sent through these questions to any of my guests, just so everybody knows here. And there's a few big beautiful doozies that are coming that I will ask that Liz has had no preparation for. And I'm talking right now, so she has an opportunity for her brain to go, what the hell is happiness for me? And honestly, if the answer is, I haven't figured that out yet, that
yeah,
is a beautiful answer to come. So I'm curious.
yeah. I think happiness for me is just honestly, it's like it's freedom. It's
Mm,
being with people that I love. It's my puppy dogs. It's
yeah,
being able to move my body every day. Um, yeah, I think that would
love
possibly
it.
be happiness for me.
It's fabulous. Thank you. Thank you for that. That's beautiful. Tell me, what is your favorite mistake that you've made in your life that maybe at the
Oh.
time was a failure or something that you thought was not great that turned out to be pretty darn good? You've already used your leaving your partner when you're 23 vibe. So I'm kind of thinking like, and that could be your favorite, but what has been your favorite mistake in your life, do you think?
So this is something that I haven't actually told very many people. So let's tell heaps of people while we're
Let's
at it.
tell the world. Thank you. I'm honored.
And it's something that I was for a very long time, only up until maybe a year ago, that I was really ashamed of. And I
Wow.
used to actually lie about it to people in conversation. And that
Wow.
was that I left school when I was in year nine, halfway through year nine.
Hmm.
Um, Not because, I wasn't a bad kid.
Hmm.
I just had kind of figured out that, oh, I don't have to be here. I can go and do other stuff that I would prefer to do because why would I want to be at school?
Yeah.
So it's probably the biggest mistake, but it's sort of the biggest thing for me where I look back and I go, I am so glad that I did that,
Yeah.
and I'm so glad that my mother allowed me to do that. She was very much all for it,
Yeah,
and
because at what, 14, 15, is that what we're looking at? Is that the
yeah,
kind
I
of
think I
age group
was
that you
possibly I was just about to turn 15,
15?
I think. Yeah, and the school was, they were very active in wanting me to stay and doing things to kind of help me stay. And I kind of made the choice. And Mum
Mm,
said to me, like, let's, if you don't want to be here, I don't want
yeah.
you to be here. And I said,
Wow.
well, I don't want to be here. But I had to do
Mm.
something. That was the trade off. I had to go in and I had to do some training and start working. And I did that.
Yeah,
So
what did you do? Yeah, like what
yeah,
did
so I
you
think I
do
did
that
like a couple of TAFE courses, and then I worked at Golo.
Yeah, I
Uh,
used to work at Golo. Stop it. In Canberra. I was on Golo for years.
yeah, I was at the Golo in Batemans Bay. It used to be
I
next
love
to.
it.
They think there's a supplement store in it now. It
Cool.
used to be a
Love
lot
it.
bigger than the
Yep.
supplement store is. Yeah, so I think I was there for about maybe 3 years, and then I started also doing some hospitality work
Hmm.
with that as well. And yeah, it sort of just took me a really long time to kind of be okay with that. I thought I'd made a big mistake probably about a year later.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think it's kind of led me to here. So I no
Yeah, and I
regrets,
mean,
no
thank you for
regrets.
sharing. I think that that's such a powerful story because you spoke about like going and living your life in your terms, which is what this conversation is all about. Like, how did you get so lucky? It's really fascinating to me because at 23, you made that catalyst decision, but actually when you were, coming on 15, you had already started to build a life on
To
your
build it.
terms at
Yeah.
such a young age. Like, to sit there
Yeah.
and go, by the time we're 14, 15, we have the basics of reading and writing, of, arithmetic, so to speak. All of that's covered, right? You know how to read, you're literate by that point in time. It's not
Yeah.
like you're illiterate by any stretch of the imagination, right? You're an articulate, intelligent woman. And it just goes to show that I hear lots of stories of entrepreneurs who didn't finish school.
Yes.
Lots of them, right? Who,
Yeah.
like, didn't finish high school. And this idea in society that we must, and I'm not, if there's any young people listening, I'm not necessarily saying that that's the path for you. Go, kids, leave school and take drugs. Don't mean that by any stretch. But it is that it's not built for everyone. And
Yes, yeah. And that's actually what my mum said to me. She said
mm,
school's not for everyone, and I think it's just not for you. And it was never something that I never enjoyed going there, and I know there's probably most kids don't enjoy going to school.
yeah,
And it wasn't bad at school. I just, got along and did what I had to do to get through it.
mm,
But yeah, once I had that choice to actually, I was given an ultimatum basically, like you either
yeah,
stay or we're going to expel you or you can
yeah, right.
leave. And so I kind of said, well, yeah, I'm out of here. Adios. So
And with the support of your mother in that, you were then able to go, like, go low. You were able to get that life experience in the world to kind of learn more about yourself. By the time you would have hit 18, you've got 3 years of full-time work under your belt,
yes,
which is incredibly useful in terms of being a self-starter, Liz. Right now, I love that that's the example that you brought up, and I thank you so much for that, because there's so much value in that. You were able to, at that tender age, really, really start to carve your own path. And no doubt, at school, you were carving your own path the years that led to that decision as well, wouldn't you think?
I think so. Yeah, yeah. I definitely. I was at a private school for the first couple of years of high school, and then was
Okay.
told by my parents that I could go to the public school when I hit year 11 and 12. But I was like, well,
Okay.
I know I'm not going to year 11 and 12, so I actually went and enrolled myself in the public school.
There you go. There you go. See, already living the life on your terms.
Yes. So yeah, came home and said, oh, I've already done it. Like I'm going to the public school next year. So
Yeah, wow. Wow. I mean, there's so much courage and conviction in that, Liz. I know that you've spoken about maybe having that kind of low low self-esteem, and later in life at that 23 kind of stuff. And I know that you've had body image stuff that has gone on in your life too.
mm,
How has that kind of, it feels like that's at odds. You've had this courageous life that you've been living, but that hasn't always been necessarily associated with happiness or um, feeling confident within yourself.
mm.
Ha- is that true? Is that how that was for you? You were courageous and living, but not necessarily aligned. What? Tell me about that.
Possibly, yeah. Like when I think back to when I was sort of around that kind of 14, 15-year old, I would never sort of think of it as being, oh, I was doing this courageous thing and sort of building my own path. I thought back then I was like, there's something wrong with me because,
Yeah,
um, yeah, I
I
felt
can't
like
fit in.
the
Yeah.
misfit. I'm the misfit, like, and I don't fit in here. I'm
Mm,
not meant to be here. Not not here in this world, but I'm not meant
yeah.
to. The what society is telling me I'm meant to do. It just does not feel right for me, and I think from the very get go, I was sort of just always drawn away from it. So always
Mm,
kind of felt like that bit of misfit. So it definitely didn't feel like courage at first.
no. Because it,
um,
it has the impact to have that, like, oh, I don't belong here. Everybody else seems to be getting along fine with this prescription, and we don't know
yes.
it's a prescription at that age. And I think that,
Yeah.
similar journey, for me, I mean, I like just finished year 12, like year 11 and year 12 were just like, oh my God, I just have to do this. I certainly didn't ever think that there was an option for me to not do it.
Yeah.
And, and but I always felt like I wasn't. Everybody else seemed to get along doing it okay, and I pretended really well to get along doing it, but it never made any sense to me. And
Yeah.
that often made me feel isolated. It
Yeah.
often made me feel like, as you say, there was something wrong with me. There was shame that was associated with that. How, like, when did that switch for you? Not to say that it's completely switched, but I feel like it probably has. When was the turning point of like, oh, this is actually my superpower, and this is really cool that I don't fit in society? When did that happen?
To be totally honest, I think it's only just recently, like, fully switched where I've gone like, oh shit, like this has all happened for a reason, and this is exactly why I am here. So I think around like the age of probably like 30 years old, I kind of started to go, oh, hang on a second, maybe everything I've done hasn't been a total fuck up. But probably
Yes.
only the last sort of 6 months to a year has been that full blown like little click where it's clicked and I've gone, oh, hang on a second, like
Yeah.
this is something that is my superpower. My control freakness is my superpower, um,
Yeah.
if I choose it to be so. So
You have to learn how to use it, right? Like when you
yeah,
look at the origin stories of all the superheroes, their power is destructive in the beginning.
yes,
Always, because they don't know how to use it. Even if you look at Harry Potter, right? Like he's blowing up bloody Dudley in the park, the snake gets let out, like he doesn't know how to control it yet.
yeah,
I'm loving what you've just shared there, Liz, that for the first 30 odd years of your life, despite the fact that you continue to walk this path, it hasn't been a bed of roses where you're like, oh yeah, I'm just so lucky, I'm so fortunate, I just great things happen to me, I'm going to go carve this own path, I'm a massive, like it hasn't been this full of confidence kind of self. It's been only in the last 4 to 6 years where you've been really starting to settle into like, oh yeah, this is my rhythm.
yes, yes. So I can
That's
definitely, yeah, say that's 100% true. Yeah.
What part of you has been the hardest part that you've had to let go of in order to have this life, do you think?
Oh, I think the willingness to show up and actually, take the mask off and be, this is 100% me. Um, and yeah, sort of put myself out there and not worry about what, the feedback is, or not worry about what other people might say. I think that's
Mm,
probably the biggest thing. I was always very shy as a child. You know my story, sort of lots of insecurity, and there was an eating disorder as well. And
mm,
um, yeah, it's taken a really long time to kind of be able to, yeah, put myself out there and just be, this is me, this is what I do. If you
mm.
like it, join me. If not, that's okay.
Yeah,
Um, and yeah, and being okay with knowing that not everyone is for you. You're not for everyone, and that's
amen.
okay. Yeah,
Amen to that. I think that
yeah,
that's probably one of the biggest things that when people are moving from people pleasing, from low self esteem, wanting to build confidence in themselves. I was talking to a client just yesterday and she's like, what, I'm scared that people won't like me. And I'm like, cool. The sooner that you realize that people don't and won't like you, the better life gets.
yes.
Because as Dita Von Teese would say, you could be the juiciest, ripest, most delicious peach in the world, and some people still don't
Still
like
don't like.
peaches.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah,
And so
and
if
but
you
the
try
people
to
that
know,
find you, yeah, people that love you and love what you do, they
mhm,
will find you, and the rest,
yeah,
that's okay. They'll find someone else that's for them,
that's right.
and that's all okay.
I'm sure that both of us irritate the shit out of some people who have come across us on the internet. Like, oh, who is this girl banging on about crap? I'm sure that that's the case. But I
Yeah,
know it's true for me because I went through a whole period of time when my social media first started exploding that I got the comments.
yeah,
People would literally be like, "F off, you slag!" Like, like why, like, the comments. And I was just like, sometimes in the beginning, I was like, "Oh man, like I've upset people, or I've offended people, or I've whatever." How have you navigated that? How have you navigated maybe having polarizing opinions? How have you navigated people not liking you, particularly on the internet?
I always come back to, was I being 100% me? Was I putting something out there that I believe in? And
Wow.
if people can come back to me and they don't like that, well, that's okay. If they've taken the time and the energy to put that hate or whatever out there, that's on them. I give that back to them. That's their problem. As long as I know that, I've been true to myself and the information I put out there is as correct as I know it to be, everything else just can kind of, yeah. It takes a long time, I think, though, to actually not let that affect you. Like you said, you kind of get like, oh my God, like this person said this, I need to fix something. And
Yeah.
now I just kind of go, you know what?
I'm not for
That's
everyone.
that's right. Yeah. That's their
Yeah.
energy waste.
I remember someone saying to me, it was back 2017. I was at a big seminar training for 4 days with a guy with, training. Like I wasn't the trainer. I was attending the course, and there was a speaker there in the audience as well, in as a participant who I admire. He's Tony Robbins' right-hand man, and he was in the same course as what I was in.
Yeah.
And I had gone up to him. I'm like, "Hey, it's so great to meet you. I really want to be a speaker. I love what you do." And he goes, "Well, what's your topic?" And I said, "Oh, well, I teach people how to love themselves." And he says to me, "What a load of crap. No one's ever going to buy that." And I was gutted at the time.
Yeah.
And then upon reflection and over the years, it's always rang true for me. And I'm sitting there and I thought to myself, you aren't my demographic.
Yeah.
He's not. He's not my audience. He at the time a very successful middle-aged man, um, fit, healthy, and has a really strong mindset. That's not the kind of people that are hating themselves. That's not the kind of people who come from a history of low self-esteem, who have to battle against their own mind in order to feel good about themselves.
That's
That's
right.
not the people. He doesn't understand the plight of the woman who has been told to be, or the man for that matter, who's told to be something. And, you know, I don't know his full background, but I had to have that realization that if it's true to me, if it's passionate within my heart, if I know that this is part of the mission, then I need to just keep walking forward, irrelevant of what the haters, no matter how much I've elevated them, what the haters are going to say. And I think like that's true for you
Definitely.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's why it's so important that there's people like yourself, and I think like myself out there as well, because then
Mm,
it allows people to either find you and go, oh, holy shit, there's actually someone else out there that thinks like me or that has the
yeah.
same beliefs as me. And
Yep.
you don't have to believe what everybody else believes. And, you
Mm,
also don't have to be vocal about that either. Like,
yeah.
about, just kind of get on with your life and do what you do. So,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Speaking of beliefs, do you believe that through challenge we grow, we get stronger, and we can overcome any obstacle that may arise in real life situations? Back in 2018, actually, it wasn't 2018, you also not just did the burpee challenge, but you're one of the very few women in the world to have ever competed in the 50-hour Kokoro Camp. It's tell me very briefly what is that? I hear that it's a training camp for forging mental toughness, modeled after the U.S. Navy SEAL training. What is that?
Yes. So it's modeled after Hell Week, which is what Navy SEALs have to go through. I think it's like their big last test to be a Navy SEAL, where they're put through a week of training. I think within that week they get about 20 minutes sleep, and they're just constantly
Whoa.
put through these, training sessions and. The 50-hour Kokoro camp is sort of like a little micro version of that. And Mark Devine, who created it, he's also one of my yoga teachers.
Yeah, wow.
He's also who I did the burpees with. He
Yeah.
first, I think, started it for men who are wanting to actually go into and be a SEAL. It was
Okay,
sort of
yeah.
just like a little taste. Can you get through this 50 hours? If so,
Mm,
then you'll, possibly more likely to succeed becoming an actual Navy SEAL.
yeah, right.
And then he ended up doing it for corporations to have team building with
Mm,
big companies, and then
yeah.
opened it to the public. And I've no idea what it's like to be in the military. I don't think that I'm a Navy SEAL or anything like that. But for
Mm,
me, it was just going and seeing what I am capable of, mentally, physically, and emotionally. Having
mm.
the information that I got from the burpees of, well, I made that hell.
Oh,
And so
yeah,
I
right.
used that in the 50 hours going into that. Well, I get to choose, and I'm going to choose that this is fucking awesome and that I can do anything that I put my mind to. So I took that with me. It was challenging, yes, absolutely. But then just sort of that little change in my mindset of like, oh, hang on a second, I get to choose that this is a good thing. Was the biggest thing that I think got me through it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mental toughness, resilience, your ability to choose, and consistency is what I'm hearing is real themes of how you got so lucky. Do you think that you got lucky? Is that what you think it is, Liz?
I think I've worked pretty damn hard to get to where I am. I don't.
The
That looked
harder I
like
work,
luck.
the luckier I get.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I definitely don't put it down to luck. I think there's been a few things that have happened where it's worked out in my favour. Things like moving out of Victoria before all the lockdowns happened, moving back to my hometown in Batemans Bay. Gave me a little bit more freedom to do what I do, because I would have been completely shut down if I was in Victoria. So maybe that was luck. I don't know. But I knew I had to get out of there a couple of years beforehand, so maybe that was just a little something from the universe little nudge to get out of there. So you could maybe call that luck, but no, it's hard work, and it's effort, and it's showing up every day, and I'm not willing to accept the kind of mediocre life of 9 to 5 grind. It works for some people, and I've got friends that they do it and they love it and they do it really well, but I'm not willing to accept it. So
I love that. I love that. It's been such an amazing conversation to have with you, and such an honor to have you share your wisdom and your knowledge and your life experience. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
There is maybe a beginning of a bit of tradition here on the More Confident Lunar Guy podcast in this guest series of How'd You Get So Lucky. I would like to close this conversation. 5 words, they could be in a sentence or they could be individual. 5 words that sum up for you how to live a life on your terms.
Oh, okay.
Have a think.
Courage.
Again on the spot. Courage.
Courage. Consistency.
Mm-hmm.
Purpose. Passion. And love.
Yes, I love that. Courage, consistency, purpose, passion, and love. Is that right?
That's right.
Did I remember that? Go brain, Lunar Guy. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for being here, Liz. I know that my listeners and all the listeners around the world are going to get so much value out of hearing your story, and that perhaps you didn't get so lucky. Perhaps you've actually worked for it with some serendipity along the way. Thanks for being here, Liz.
Thanks, Lena. It's been great.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, it would be remiss of me. You thought that you'd gotten away from today's episode. You thought that we had said goodbye to Liz Fulop, but actually, what I didn't ask, and one of the most important questions, Liz, you are a phenomenal trainer. What you do is absolutely incredible. Tell me, how can people find you?
So they can either find me on Facebook or Instagram. I am at challengefitness.me. Or you can jump on my website at challengefitness.online, and you can find all my stuff there. You can reach out to me. My email's on there. My mobile phone number's on there. So yeah, go have a look and check it out.
Anything coming up? Is there anything, like, how can people get involved with you?
Yes, I'm actually starting a 12-week fitness and nutrition program with a very holistic approach on Monday, the 22nd of January. So if people want to reach out about that and find out more, please do, because I'd love to have people there with me.
Yeah, beautiful. That's it, folks. That is how you go and find Liz. Go jump on. All of that details are going to be in the show notes. So go check out Liz Fulop. She is an incredible human being to whom I adore. So please go do the thing. Chat to you soon. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the More Confidence with Lunar Guy podcast. I hope you feel more confident, more self-assured, and ready to go tackle the world's problems and maybe kick ass in some of your dreams. If you haven't already, I would love for you to like and subscribe, follow, and maybe leave a review so that other people know how to find this awesome podcast too. If you're wanting to sink your teeth into something even more juicy, my number one best-selling book, Perfectly Imperfect, Your Complete Guide to Loving Yourself and Loving Your Body, is now available on all good bookstore sites, both in print, digital, and I narrated it for Audible as well. If you think that coaching or maybe one of my courses is for you, why not head to www.moreconfidence.com.au and get in touch and see if we can talk. And of course, you can find me all across the social medias. That's Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, YouTube, which is where you're probably listening now, or maybe even here on the podcast platform. Sending you big love and wishing you a beautiful day.